The sun beat down mercilessly on the tarmac of the Nevada desert, where high-end cars and expensive prototypes glistened under the open sky. It was the final day of the West Coast Automotive Expo, and engineers from around the world had come to show off the future of performance technology. Among them was Sebastian Rowe, a young, cocky, Ivy League engineer with backing from tech billionaires and a chip on his shoulder the size of his private jet. His electric hydraulic supercar had drawn the largest crowd, until mid-demo, its engine let out a loud pop and died with a hiss. Frantic murmurs followed, and Sebastian's confident smirk twitched. "It's just a thermal fuse," he waved it off. "No big deal." But 20 minutes passed, then 40, and even his own team struggled with diagnostics. Then, from the side of a tent, a small voice spoke up. "I can fix it." Heads turned. A young black woman in oil-stained overalls stepped forward. Her name tag read Rayna. She wasn't part of any team, just a local mechanic who had wandered in with a general access badge and an eye for machinery. Sebastian scoffed. "You think you can fix what MIT grads and German techs can't?" Rayna didn't flinch. "I know what's wrong. You're overcycling voltage through a cracked relay gate. The system's overheating and deadlocking itself." The crowd laughed nervously, but Rayna stepped closer, steady and sure. Sebastian, half amused and half insulted, shrugged. "Fine. You fix it. Hell, I'll marry you." The crowd chuckled harder, thinking it was a joke. But Rayna simply knelt beside the car, opened the access panel, and got to work. Her fingers moved with the precision of someone who had rebuilt engines since she could hold a wrench. Sebastian leaned back, smirking, but behind that smirk, a hint of nervous curiosity crept in. Rayna's hands moved like lightning as she dove into the maze of wires and conduits beneath the supercar's sleek chassis, her greasy overalls smeared with the dust of 1,000 roadside repairs. Around her, the crowd's laughter faded into an uneasy hush, punctuated only by the hiss of vents and the distant rumble of engines idling. Sebastian Rowe leaned against the prototype's polished fender, arms crossed, watching with a mixture of skepticism and growing intrigue. He'd built his reputation on flawless calculations and pristine labs, not on spit and sawdust instincts. But here was a mechanic with neither pedigree nor pretense, diagnosing a fault he himself had overlooked. She murmured technical terms: voltage bleed, relay gate fracture, thermal deadlock, and each time the words landed, another engineer peeked over her shoulder, brow furrowed. Rayna's fingers danced as she replaced a microfuse salvaged from her tool pouch, rerouted power lines with a nimbleness that suggested muscle memory born of countless salvage yard rescues, and tightened connectors until the metal gleamed. For a moment, she paused and looked up, her dark eyes catching Sebastian's, and in that instant he felt the tremor of doubt he'd never admit. Around them, the air felt charged. Then, decisive, she wiped her hands on a rag, pressed the ignition button, and the supercar's heart thundered to life, smooth, powerful, unyielding. The crowd erupted, stunned applause crashing like waves. Sebastian's jaw dropped. His smirk vanished, replaced by raw admiration. Rayna stood, offering him a steady gaze that said she'd proven her worth, but didn't need his praise. He extended a hand, at first out of habit, then realization. This was the woman who'd just rescued his career and shattered his ego in one elegant motion. I didn't believe you," he stammered, voice thick with humility. Rayna accepted his handshake, her grip firm. "You believed in numbers," she replied softly, "but I believe in engines." The expo's banners fluttered above them as the crowd surged forward to congratulate her. But the moment stretched between the engineer and the mechanic, an unspoken promise that neither would ever laugh at the other again. By the next morning, Rayna's name was everywhere, from industry blogs to global news outlets. "Black female mechanic stuns auto world," read one. "She fixed the unfixable," declared another. Sebastian's company Stratos Engineering had just announced a multi-million-dollar breakthrough the day before. Yet it was Rayna Thomas, not their sleek prototype, dominating the headlines. In a quiet moment back in her modest garage on the edge of town, Rayna stared at the cracked screen of her phone, watching her inbox flood with interview requests, brand deals, and job offers. She hadn't asked for any of it. All she'd wanted was respect, and now she had the world's attention. But not everyone was celebrating. Online trolls questioned if she was fed the solution. Others called it a publicity stunt. Rayna ignored them, until one comment caught her off guard. Bet he still won't marry her. She laughed. It had been a joke, right? A cocky dare from a man used to being the smartest person in the room. But for some reason, that sentence lingered in her mind longer than it should have. Maybe because it wasn't just about the engine, it was about proving she belonged in a space that had never welcomed people who looked like her. That evening, a sleek, silver car rolled into her lot. It purred like a lion with its pride restored. Sebastian stepped out, dressed not in a tailored suit this time, but jeans and a hoodie. Clothes that didn't speak of power, but humility. "You said you believe in engines," he said, leaning on the hood. "I've spent my whole life building them, but I've never seen someone feel one like you do." Rayna smirked. "You came here to say that?" "No," he replied, pulling out a tablet and showing her the headline of Autotech Weekly, "Stratos's future lies in her hands." "I want you on the team," he added, "not in the shadows, as a partner." Rayna blinked. This wasn't another job offer, it was a seat at the table. Slowly, she nodded, heart pounding. As the sun dipped behind the skyline, she realized something more than just a partnership had begun to form, something dangerous, beautiful, and entirely unexpected. Rayna stepped into the Stratos engineering headquarters for the first time, not as a visitor, but as an equal. Her name had been added to the design board, and her signature was now on key documents. Engineers who had once scoffed now greeted her with stiff nods and curious stares. She didn't need their approval. Her skill had already spoken for itself. What she didn't expect, however, was how often Sebastian showed up by her side. He brought her coffee in the morning. He'd linger after meetings, asking her opinion not just on engine torque, but music, travel, books, things far beyond mechanics. At first, Rayna thought it was just professional camaraderie, but then she caught the way his eyes lingered on her when she laughed, or how his whole mood changed when she walked into a room. The man who once laughed at her in a dusty garage now seemed humbled, drawn, and careful around her, as if he was discovering something precious he didn't know how to name. But Rayna didn't fall easily. She'd been underestimated, used, and sidelined too many times to believe in fairy tales. One night, as they worked late on a new prototype engine, he leaned back and asked, "Do you remember what I said? If you fixed it, I'd marry you." She didn't even look up from the schematic. "I remember. Thought it was a joke." "It was," he said softly. "But I keep thinking about it, and I'm not sure I want it to stay one." Her pen paused midline. Silence stretched between them, the low hum of machinery the only sound. She finally met his eyes, earnest, nervous, and searching. "Marriage isn't a reward for brilliance," she said, "and I'm not something to be won." He stepped back, ashamed. "I know. I'm sorry. She raised a hand, but she continued, "If what you're feeling is real, then prove it. Not with promises, not with press, with actions." And he did. Over the next few weeks, Sebastian stepped aside in meetings so she could lead. He credited her ideas. He challenged colleagues who interrupted her. He didn't try to take her shine, he reflected it. And in quiet moments, he simply listened. Rayna found herself smiling more, laughing freely. And when he brushed her hand one evening, her heart no longer flinched from fear. It leapt from something new. Possibility. Months passed, and Rayna's life had transformed in ways she never imagined. The girl who used to be laughed at for her grease-stained hands and sun-worn overalls was now a rising star in the engineering world. Her ideas were sought after. Her reputation soared. Yet, through all the attention and sudden respect, it was Sebastian's quiet consistency that grounded her. He never tried to outshine her. He never treated her like a project. Instead, he became her partner in the truest sense, both in the workshop and in life. They worked side by side on Stratos's most ambitious project, yet a solar hybrid engine that could revolutionize commercial transport. It wasn't just about horsepower anymore, it was about changing the game. On the day of the prototype's public unveiling, Rayna stood in front of a crowd of media, investors, and skeptics. Cameras flashed, journalists whispered, and Sebastian stood proudly beside her, letting her take the spotlight. She explained the engine's capabilities with clarity and passion. When the machine roared to life with seamless precision, the room erupted in applause. Rayna beamed, not just for the achievement, but for what it represented: breaking barriers, rewriting expectations, and claiming her place. But the night wasn't over. At the after event, beneath the stars on the company's rooftop garden, Sebastian raised a glass. "Everyone here knows this engine runs like a dream," he said, "but what you may not know is that it wouldn't exist without Rayna. She didn't just fix a machine, she rebuilt this entire team's way of thinking, including mine." Rayna looked up, surprised. He turned to her, slowly sinking to one knee, pulling out a small black box. The crowd gasped. Her hand flew to her mouth. "I said once, half joking, that if you fix that engine, I'd marry you. Truth is, I never stopped thinking about it. Not because of the engine, but because you've challenged me, inspired me, and shown me what real strength looks like. Rayna, will you marry me, not as a prize, but as a partner?" Tears welled in her eyes. For the first time, it wasn't about proving herself. It was about being seen, truly seen. She stepped forward, took his hand, and smiled through her tears. "Yes," she whispered. And just like that, the mechanic who had once been dismissed and mocked found herself celebrated, empowered, and deeply loved. Not because she changed who she was, but because she never did.